First things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. Our conversation, our discussion this morning, is this the best weekend of the football season? Is this it? Is this the most anticipated?
It's my favorite sports weekend of the year.
Is it?
To me, it's my favorite sports weekend of the year. Cris has different opinions, but whatever it is, we're going to talk about all the games.
Let's go,
America.
8 teams left in the NFL playoffs. We got 4 games this weekend, and we're going to break them all down this morning. Sit back, relax, caffeinate, because here we go. Let's start with the Cowboys. They head west to take on the Rams Saturday night on Fox. Dallas looking to continue their momentum from last Saturday, while the Rams are looking to make good on a 13-win season. A lot of great matchups in this one. You got 2 of the league's best running backs in Ezekiel Elliott and Todd Gurley. You got 2 third-year quarterbacks in Dak Prescott and Jared Goff. And you got 2 hungry teams looking to live another weekend.
This is another game, as I continue to say, is way back when we're 3-5 and our backs are against the wall. This is the same thing. Our backs are against the wall. We've got to go win a game, a very important game, and we're excited for our chance to go do that.
Big stage. We playing at home. We try and play for it all. So let's start this week, and we got to finish strong and trying to make it happen.
All right, we've been talking about this matchup all week. It is finally here. After everything that we've heard from both of these teams this week, what do you think is the key to this matchup?
I mean, there's going to be a lot of attention on the running backs. Very seldom ever are we going to get a matchup like this where, say 5 years ago, the running back was starting to be faded out of the NFL offense. Now it is the focal point. The draft picks are back, drafting guys high. We see Todd Gurley on the 2nd contract. Typically, we're not seeing that. L. Bell struggled as far as to get into that. So these are the elite of the elite running backs. Sean McVay right now, the new vogue thing is young, offensive-minded football coaches. A lot of it because of him and Kyle Shanahan. But now, more recently, because of him. Double digits in his first year with the Rams, double digits again in his 2nd year. But it all boils down to this is pro football, and if you got a guy that can make plays in critical situation, it erases a lot of mistakes. So you don't have to be a dominant football team. Last week, Dallas was not dominant. But at the end of the game, the one guy, Dak Prescott, he was able to take over that game and made the plays that were able to make the difference. The biggest key to this game is which one of these young quarterbacks, very, very young in their career, can get this playoff win and divisional win that could propel them into the stratosphere as far as NFL quarterbacks. Because right now, they're just young and they're more question marks than answers. But the biggest key is which one of these young quarterbacks is going to take advantage of the prime time stage and going to be able to make several plays late in the football game to be able to give their team the advantage. So for me, it's about the quarterbacks.
And because you basically know the running backs are going to show up. The best players on both teams, in my eyes, Gurley, and best players on both teams' offenses are their running backs. It would be shocking if either one of these guys has a really poor game. So then trickle down to the quarterbacks. And that's where, to me, the key in this football game is the big defensive people on the Cowboys, and can they get to Jared Goff? Jared Goff, the 28th ranked quarterback this year in the league when facing pressure.
Wow.
If you pressure Jared Goff, he doesn't turn into an average quarterback. He turns into a bad quarterback. We saw one of the reasons that Jared Goff was so successful in that when they beat the Chiefs 54-51, Chiefs couldn't create a consistent pressure, and he was able to pick them apart in the first half of that football game. If the Cowboys, and that was really the high watermark of the Rams season, since then, if you look at the first half, second half, that Rams offense has sputtered a bit. Now, part of that was Todd Gurley missed a couple games and wasn't healthy in some of the games he played.
Right.
But how upright, how much time can Jared Goff have? Because I think that we know Zeke is going to put the Cowboys in a position, and the Rams' run defense is going to put the Cowboys in a position where the Cowboys can win time of possession, where the Cowboys are not going to be in a position where they are having to take a bunch of risky throws as far as to where the turnover battle could get out of hand. But the Rams have more talent. The Rams, if the quarterback plays well, should be able to put up 28-plus points. They're averaging just around 32 points per game. Even if you're shy of that, should be able to put those points up if Goff is not pressured and if Goff plays well. If he doesn't, this could be an upset. This game is not like the other NFC game where I would be pretty shocked if the underdog won. I wouldn't be shocked if the Dallas Cowboys went to Los Angeles and won. I think the Rams will win, but the Cowboys have a couple paths to upset the Rams.
It's an interesting point, that the fact that he does turn into what you call a bad quarterback when he's pressured, and the fact that their defense hasn't played that well this year, at least as well as we thought it would play at the beginning of the season, and the fact that you think this offense may have sputtered just a little bit down the stretch. This is a team that still won 13 games this season, that still found a way at the end of it to keep it all together. Is this going to come down to what Dallas's defense can do to the Rams?
Well, that's going to be one part of the story. The Rams are a very, very talented team. Coming into the season, there was just as much anticipation with the Rams and the new players they added. I mean, they were a double-digit win last year, so for them to get to 13 wins, not that surprising. Now, we did see early the development of Goff. But later on, he came backwards a little bit, but that was based on a number of injuries, lost Cooper Kupp, and then also Todd Gurley. We knew that he was favoring that knee. Even before they reported he was having some knee problem, it was fairly obvious as far as his performance. Dallas's D does have an opportunity in this game to be able to create some turnovers to make the game easier for Dak. There's a style for which the Cowboys, when they are playing that style, they can win. And it is very, very physical on defense, very, very young, running to the ball, playing with a lot of enthusiasm. Dak Prescott handing the ball to his best friend Ezekiel Elliott and making about 5 plays. Amari Cooper having 85 to 110 yards in the passing game, and that's been enough for the Cowboys to be able to win. So that defense, Jenna, that the Cowboys are going to play with these young players, it is very important that they're able to play well, and especially early. It's going to be a mixed crowd there in the Coliseum. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be more like a Super Bowl where you have a 50-50 split because all the Cowboys fans there. But the energy that we have seen this defense, this is a kind of team that you think, okay, which team brings the juice to the team? And I would just say more on a consistent basis because Dak is so stoic. You don't see him doing a lot. Amari is not a really demonstrative guy. Zeke does his eating thing. But to me, they get the energy from that young defense.
They get the juice from that linebacking core, it feels like, and the rest of the front seven. I'm going to bring up a name that has not been talked about much in sports television since he signed with the Rams. Not much throughout the year. Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh, this is the biggest game he's ever played in. He's played in 3 career playoff games, all in the wild card round. He's never been on a team that we thought was a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Made the playoffs a couple times in Detroit, the 10-win team in Miami he was a part of. So he's never played in a game with these stakes. He also, I think it's fair to say, has been disappointing this year. When the Rams' run defense is that bad and Ndamukong Suh is playing as many snaps as he is up the middle of that defense, part of that falls on him, and his pressures numbers fell down considerably, even though his defensive line mate's the one getting double teamed in Aaron Donald. Ndamukong Suh had a better matchup this season than he's ever had in his career, couldn't take advantage. He has been good in his 3 career playoff games. In his 3 career playoff games, 3.5 sacks, a couple forced fumbles, 5 TFLs and 5 more quarterback hits. Can Ndamukong Suh show up big time in this, the biggest game he's ever played?
Nick, great point, especially the interior part of Dallas's line. There's question marks. The rookie, Connor Williams from Texas, started off the season starting at left guard, struggled a little bit, went to the bench. The guy who came in for him, he's injured, hadn't played. So now Connor is back in there. Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, if they play the run, they should try to take over this game in the Coliseum. So great point as far as Ndamukong Suh, but also a great matchup for him.
All right, we'll talk much more about this game. We got a couple other games to get to. On the other side, do Nick Foles and the Eagles have any chance of upsetting the Saints? It's next on First Things First.
Listen, I know you don't want to hear about it, but 66% of men, 2 out of 3, lose their hair by age 35. When you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. That's why 4Hims is here to give you the chance at correcting that bald spot or receding hairline before it becomes a real problem. Fact, it's easier to keep the hair you have than to replace the hair you've lost. Don't become a statistic. Try 4Hims. Here's your solution. 4Hims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and wellness for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Gotta love science. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. You'll get well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. There's no waiting room, no awkward in-person doctor visits. You'll save hours by going to forhims.com. Answer a few quick questions, and the doctor will review and prescribe you the products you need. All products are conveniently shipped directly to your door. It's really that simple. Order now. Our listeners get a trial month of 4Hims for just $5 today. Right now while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to 4hims.com/first. Spell it out now, F-I-R-S-T. That's 4Hims, FORHIMS.com/first. 4hims.com/first.
Welcome back. We'll get to the Patriots-Chargers in just a second, but first, a couple of highlights from last night's Celtics seat. That's James Johnson destroying Kyrie with the tomahawk.
Oh, my. This was a fun game last night. Heat took a lead tail end of the first quarter, held on to it throughout, built at some point a 26-point lead. James Johnson, one of the best athletes in the league, says he can roundhouse kick a basketball that's jarred in the rim. He was a Taekwondo expert. Wow. That's a true story. Roundhouse kick a basketball out of between the rim and the backboard.
I'd love to see that. Same game, Marcus Smart skies high to make an incredible block on Bam Adebayo.
Man, he's way above the rim. Marcus Smart, one of them intangible things. That's what the coach always says. It doesn't always equate the stuff in the stat sheet, but, man, they need him. This is how the Celtics hit their season turned around with plays like that.
Second most fired up he was all night. Compare that and the little dispute with Marcus Morris.
Spurs Thunder, DeMar DeRozan drives baseline and throws down the dunk.
Now, this was a basketball game, America. National television, a little double OT. LaMarcus goes for 56. Russell's got 24 assists. This was a fun basketball game last night. DeRozan.
Moving on, Clippers Nuggets. Nikola Jokic grabbing the defensive rebound, making a perfect full court pass to Jamal Murray.
He's one of the best in the league. It's got a soft touch, but the vision, anticipation right here. Now, look, watch this. Anticipating. He sees the guy out on the three, doesn't bring both hands together on it. Ball doesn't even touch the ground.
He says, hey, Wes Unseld, you would do a little two-hander. I'm going to do a one-hander.
Yeah, two-hand overhead chest pass, Wes Unseld, Louisville's finest.
Louisville's finest. Oh.
Wait, check this one out. College hoops.
More.
Murray State's Ja Morant looking like
over the
classic Vince Carter. Boom.
Now, you got to move your chin. You got to move your chin either up or down. You can't. No, that's not a good look there. Hey, man, you're in an era that's not going to ever disappear. Man, you'll be getting your car fixed, and dudes be like, "Hey, you're that guy that got yammed on."
Man, something like that ended Frederick Weiss's career when Vince Carter did him like that in the Olympics.
Yeah, you can't go to the barbershop and get your hair cut, man. You're gonna have to get a fro.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna grow some hair. Oh, that's nasty.
So I didn't get that reference.
That's embarrassing.
Well,
you don't want to go back into the barbershop. They talk a lot of trash in the barbershop.
Right, so you're just gonna have to
He's gonna
stay
grow
away
an
from the
afro.
barbershop.
He's not gonna get his hair cut, so his hair is gonna grow. Like a chia pet.
Don't worry about it.
8 steps there. Hey, moving on to Nick Foles. He and the Eagles head down to New Orleans trying to win their 5th straight playoff game. So the last time these two teams played, the Saints absolutely demolished them 48-7. That was then. This is now. Because that's how time works. Then Nick Foles was still on the bench, and their playoff push had not begun. Now Nick Foles is behind center, and his teammates are making him shrines. All right, Nick, how do the Eagles pull off the upset here?
Only Jenna Wolfe knows how time works, doesn't know how the barbershop works. All right, so...
Good, let that marinate in that little joke.
All right, so how can the Eagles pull off the upset? That was the question. Sorry, I was getting my line ready. Somehow get some type of pressure on Drew Brees and don't let Alvin Kamara ruin your day. I don't know what they're going to do with Michael Thomas. I'm just going to be totally candid here. I'm trying to think about the boxes they have to check. Pressure on Drew Brees. I think it's possible. Teron Armstead's been dealing with an injury the last quarter of the season. You've got a great defensive front. I think that's doable. Dealing with Alvin Kamara, you're going to have to dedicate a lot of your game plan to Alvin Kamara if you're going to deal with him, because I don't think you leave Malcolm Jenkins out on an island on him like we saw in their first matchup. But I think that's possibly doable. But then there's still another factor you're going to have to deal with. That's Michael Thomas. And that one I haven't solved, which is one of the reasons I said about 10 minutes ago, I'd be very surprised if the Eagles can pull off this upset. Now, that's one side of the ball. The other side of the ball, I'm going to pull a Cris Carter. I need 6 big plays from Nick Foles in the passing game. 6. I need 6 plays of 25 yards, whether you're throwing it up and hoping like we've seen some, or a Darren Sproles busting coverage, a little wheel route where he hits him over the top. Something where you have big chunk plays that turn a drive where you don't have good field position. All of a sudden like that, you're past the 50. Because and that, by the way, going for that could let this game get away from them. You go for big plays, you're going to have big plays going the other way. You can have sack fumbles, you can have interceptions. But I think the Saints are the best team in the NFL. They are rested. They are as healthy as they were going to be. They have a full complement of weapons, and they're at home. So for all those reasons, this is a kitchen sink game for me if I'm the Eagles. I mean, I'm throw everything at you because I think the Saints, they opened as a 10-point favorite.
Right.
They're still about an 8.5-point favorite. They are the significant favorite of the weekend.
The Eagles knew what they needed to do last time they played them. They needed to stop Drew Brees. They needed to stop Alvin Kamara. They needed to stop Michael Thomas. What weren't they able to do? How did they attack the Saints last time that maybe, we know they didn't watch film, but maybe they make adjustments this time around?
Well, the thing about the last time is they realized they're a different football team. So just like after that game where they got blown out in that game, 48 points scored against them, the coaches didn't watch the film because they didn't feel like there was much they can learn. Now when they come into this game, they're a totally different team. They got a different guy at quarterback. So how are they going to win this game? I mean, they're not going to be able to win this game with their defense.
No.
Only way they're going to be able to do this is this guy right here. They build some type of shrine to him. and Nick Foles is able to start the 2nd or 3rd chapter in his next book in this great playoff run because, oh, there's no way they can win without Nick Foles out-dueling Drew Brees in the dome.
Wow.
Oh, you could be talking. They're not going to be able to run on the Saints. This myth that we went through in the first 4 or 5 games, the Saints are one of the best teams against the run. Well, the numbers and everything aren't right. 8 games, they're one of the best against the run. 12 games, we had the whole regular season. It's not something that we're just making up. The Saints have a very, very good run defense. Their front 7 is better than we anticipated. Their only struggle has been on the back end. That's why Nick Foles and the ability to be able to make 6 big plays, spread the ball around, because they're going to have to throw the ball 40 times in this game. I don't see any other game where you say, you know what, coming to this game, we're going to throw the football. Besides Patty Mahomes and Kansas City and getting that crowd going and everything. No, that's not the way you win in playoff games. So Nick Foles, abandon the running game when you get off the bus. Just run, just so the wide receivers can just get a little bit of a rest, because you have to try to attack the secondary. You have to try to look at the middle of the field, go against those Saints safeties, and Eli Apple. You have to try to attack his psyche, because he's 2 different football players. He didn't have a good career start there with the Giants. Wasn't good off the field in the locker room. Sean Payton loves Ohio State guys. I think he's got 6 Ohio State players on that team, 3 other in that secondary playing there with him. He went there, instantly started playing a lot better. But there are times where the New York Giants' Eli Apple creeps into the body of Eli Apple in a Saints uniform.
He does a bad job of having a short memory as a corner.
Yes.
Right? So, like, one bad play for Eli Apple can beget another and beget another. That's what you're saying with 2 different football players.
Especially in the pressure of the playoffs. Every play is bigger in your mind. The hype is bigger. When you're going to have that crowd involved in the game, especially going in, they know they're going to attack Eli Apple. So I believe his overall psyche, ability for Nick Foles to be able to get the ball to his side of the field to different wide receivers, that is the whole key for me in the Philadelphia's getting the win against the Saints.
And I understand that, but is there an argument to be made for maybe trying to run the little ball more, or just trying to keep Drew Brees in this offense off the field as much as possible?
It doesn't keep him off the field if you go 3 and out. And the only way, to me, I would only be running in this game to set up the pass. I would only be running in this game to set up a play action or to set up my RPO where I know it's really only the P in the RPO. Like I'm doing the pass option in this because I just don't, the Eagles struggle to run against average run defenses. And B, to Chris's point, early in the year, I was skeptical of the Saints' run defense numbers. Like, well, they're jumping out on big leads. Maybe that's why
I didn't mean you. I just meant people in America. I didn't mean you.
But I'm going to talk about me.
Yeah, America knows I pick on you enough.
Yeah, that's fine. But even if you think that, well, one of the reasons they're so good against the run is teams abandon the run, just look at the Saints against the run on a per carry basis instead of total yardage. Just how many yards per rush. They're top 6 in the NFL in that as well. So however you slice it, this Saints front's been very good against the run. And however you slice it, the Eagles offense, they're 28th in the league running the ball.
Yeah, Jenna, you do make a good point as far as you've never told me, Chris, that they have to throw the ball to be able to run. But I believe that Doug Peterson and one of your guys, Darren Sproles, with him being healthy, that's one of the other things that was different than the first meeting that they're going to do. Get Sproles involved in the passing game, especially the screen game. The Eagles, one of the best in the league. Offensive line, very, very athletic, can get him out in space. So you can run a number of screens, high percentage. It's just like running the football. So there's other ways to be able to control the clock, but a lot of that, it goes through St. Nick. If they're not building a shrine to St. Nick in New Orleans, they got no chance to be able to win this game.
And I want to, for each of these games this weekend, I'm going to try to bring up one name that people know but that we haven't talked a lot about. In the first game, it was Ndamukong Suh. Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport for the New Orleans Saints. They traded 2 first-round picks to move up and get him. He played well early in the year, and then he suffered a toe injury. Back in Week 17, had a half a sack. Marcus Davenport is a guy. He, along with Cam Jordan, they got bookend pass rushers there. We know how well the Eagles did against Khalil Mack, against Aaron Donald when they faced him, against J.J. Watt. They've got 2 guys to deal with in this football game. I want to see how they deal with that to try to give Nick Foles the time to take the shots we're talking about.
All right, let's talk some Tom Brady on the other side. Can Phillip Rivers get his first win ever against Tom Brady this weekend? That's next on First Things First. On Sunday night, tune in to FS1 for a big super middleweight title fight as Jose Uzcategui defends his belt against undefeated Caleb Plant. Live Sunday at 6:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. All right, time now for us to go viral. Enes Kanter dropped 12 points and 16 rebounds against the Warriors on Tuesday night. And I guess you could say he worked up a bit of an appetite, posting his cheat meal.
Hey, after a long trip, I'm having my cheat day. I have 3 triple patties with eggs and sauces. I got my French fries. I got 1 burger here, 2 burger here, 2 burger here, 4 burger here. I'm very excited about it. Let's do it. Bon appetit.
Do you understand? That's my fantasy, to be able to just
eat one of those.
Woo! And to no one's surprise, he missed practice the next day, with Knicks reporter Steve Popper saying he left due to illness. Oh, I'd say.
Sometimes when guys miss NBA practices with flu-like symptoms, that means they were out the night before. Because you do have flu-like symptoms with a bad hangover. They are very similar to this flu. This is legitimate, I think, flu-like symptoms. My man ate hamburgers, fried eggs on them.
Yeah. That's every day in the life of Nick Wright.
Oh.
Cheating every day.
I mean, honestly.
See, you got to stop diet shaming me, man.
Time for your AT&T wake-up call. So LeBron James will miss at least another 3 games with his groin injury. Lakers said they plan to reevaluate him on Wednesday. Nick, what was your reaction to this?
My reaction to this was, as much as it pains me to say it, my man Cris Carter and the injuries. The only person on sports television that the moment this happened, even after when LeBron said dodged a bullet, when it seemed like it wasn't a big deal, Cris didn't believe it.
Nope.
I said I was hoping 3 to 5 games, maybe 5 to 8. It's now going to be at least 11 games missed minimum. I would think he'll be back after these 3 games, especially given who they have coming up. But you saw that this was a significant injury, and I didn't think it was.
And the number 11 is significant because there's another superstar who had a groin injury, Steph Curry. He missed 11 games. And you got to listen to the athlete. Initially, LeBron said, I heard it pop. That means you know there's a significant strain there. Also, they were headed to Sacramento. They sent them back to Los Angeles. Like, I was reading the tea leaves. That means they got significant damage in there. And even LeBron James, I knew that this injury was going to take a significant time to recover. And this is all. We talk about Brady. These are all the things that are signs of times when you start to get lingering injuries to a guy who's avoided all injuries like no other superstar we've ever seen.
This is now, amazingly, if he misses the 11 games, the single most significant injury of his career.
All right, Colts and Chiefs facing off in the AFC divisional round. Andrew Luck going up against the presumptive MVP and Patrick Mahomes. Cris Carter, what do you think the key is in this matchup?
The key is ball control. I know Frank Wright said, oh, no, we're not trying to conserve time. We're trying to score. Yeah. But I believe that Indy and their ability to be versatile offensively with Andrew Luck this season, 39 touchdown passes. Marlon Mack, especially in the last 4 games, averaging 100 yards in that offensive line. This is a team that's dangerous to the Chiefs because they can keep the ball away from Patty Mahomes, and that's the only defense in the NFL that will work.
To me, the key is how healthy are the Colts actually? Mike Mitchell, one of their safeties, out. Clayton Geathers and Malik Hooker, their other 2 safeties, didn't practice yesterday and most of the week. 3 of their 4 starting defensive linemen didn't practice yesterday. I want to know how healthy the Colts are because I know the Chiefs are the healthiest they've been all year. If you don't have your starting safeties against this pass attack, no matter how much you control the ball, you're going to be in real
Chiefs
trouble.
bad news, though, they're not going to have Eric Berry.
You're certain of that?
Well,
it doesn't look good, but I don't know if he's been ruled out.
After a bye week,
he's
missed 3/4 of the season. What, did he practice yesterday?
No, he did not.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you'll listen to me.
Okay.
Moving on to Antonio
I just said
Brown.
you know about injuries.
Antonio Brown's situation with the Steelers has seemingly gone from bad to worse. That is, if you consider your boss basically giving up on you as worse. The team's owner and president, Art Rooney II, said it is hard to envision the Browns, Antonio Brown, being on the Steelers team next season. So, Nick, you surprised that this has all come down to this?
No, not at all. Not after what happened at the end of the season. If you'd asked me after week 16, would I be surprised if Antonio Brown was not a Steeler the next year? I would have said I'd be shocked. There was no chance. But when you no show, no call in the most important week of your season, I said the next day, I don't know what choice they have other than to move on from Antonio Brown, no matter how talented he is. They can cap-wise, they have the same hit whether he's on the team or off the team, so it's significant in that you don't get any cap relief for moving on from him in the 2019 season, but it's not such that you have a worse cap hit for moving on from him. And I don't know how you could ask Mike Tomlin to face that team again with Antonio Brown, who figuratively spit in his face in the final days of the season. So I think it's a shame. I think Antonio's going to should do, I don't know if he will, some soul searching about what he wants to do and what the type of player he wants to be known as, because we all know how brilliant he is on the field. It's self-inflicted by him to force his way out of one of the greatest franchises in all of sports. But no, I'm not shocked it came to this, not after what happened in week 17.
Jenna, I'm shocked because they've given him the type of support. They've given him everything that you would want, that he could grow into some type of maturity and be a leader, be a guy who's been dependable. But there have been a number of warning signs throughout the years. And I'm just going to say, as a former player and as someone who knows a lot of players in the league and a lot of coaches, I know a lot more information than I put on TV, because a lot of times it doesn't help, because a lot of the information that I have, you try to see if it's going to play out publicly. Like Ryan Clark, he made some comments that people knew about, but he finally commented about them because there was a similar behavior. But there's kind of been this kind of agreement between guys who have played the game. It's kind of like the sausage making factory. Everybody wants to eat sausage, but you don't want to see how it's made. And when you're inside these locker rooms, you know things about people. So I'm surprised that it came to this, because they have supported him at every step of his career. Yes, and they've given him every opportunity to continue to grow. And I'm also surprised when the Rooney family comes out and you ask them a question about one of their star players. Ask them, do you see them here in the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform? And they say, no. Like, That was shocking to me because that's not how they do business. Them, the New York Football Giants, some of the classiest organizations for the longest time, have always done things a certain way. So in that, I am surprised.
What are the Steelers' options now, and what are Brown's options? I know they didn't take a cap hit. Well, the same if he was there or not, but now what can they do?
I mean, well, Brown, to me, has no options. He won't – since he left the building during the Week 17 game, he has not spoken with, he has not answered the phone calls of his head coach or the team owner. So he's made his choice. His choice is, I want to be somewhere else, and it looks like
they have to trade him.
They have to trade him in order for that to happen. One thing that Art Rooney II said yesterday very clearly is, we're not cutting him.
Yeah.
And, of course, they're not cutting him because what are the Steelers' options? They can't trade him until March 1st, first day of the league year. They will have to trade him by March 5th. They don't have to, but if not, they're going to pay him a $2.5 million roster bonus. They don't want to do that. So sometime in the first week of March, I would imagine a team's going to give up a first-round pick and something for Antonio Brown. He's that talented, and his off-the-field issues aren't ones that are criminal to where you might turn off your fan base by acquiring him. Whoever trades for Antonio Brown, the fans are going to be excited. The coach is going to talk about, we just got the best receiver in football, and their football team will be better. It won't be more reliable, but their football team will be better, and they will have a lot of suitors for him.
All right, let's move on to the Patriots now. They'll kick off their postseason against Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. They know the Chargers finished the regular season with a better record, a better defense, some would say a better offense. But the Pats are trying to reach the Super Bowl for the 4th time in 5 years with a quarterback who, despite slowing down, is far from done. All right, Nick, how do they do it? How are the Patriots going to beat the Chargers at home, at Gillette?
Well, I think that Chris's point yesterday that it's going to have to be a Sony Michel-centric offense rather than a Tom Brady-centric offense is a great one. I think that's accurate. I think that you can't drop Tom Brady back 35, 40 times against this pass rush when you know you don't have a bunch of receivers that are going to get open off the snap, that if they are going to get open, it's going to take time. So I think that's correct. I also think the other running back for the New England Patriots that's key in this game is James White.
Yes.
His ability to catch balls out of the backfield. And then on the other side of the football, can the Patriots secondary play to what the advanced stats say are their rankings, which is a top 3 secondary in football? That it's not just Stephon Gilmore, that the secondary as a whole, can they hold down a potent Chargers passing attack that is built just the way you want a receiving core built? You've got your true number 1 in Keenan Allen. You got your big guy in Mike Williams, who one day can be a number 1. You might have Hunter Henry back. Like you've got a lot of diversity in the passing attack for the Chargers. Can that secondary win that battle? Because if Melvin Gordon, he's expected to play, but he's not going to be 100% if he does play. I think those are the keys for the Patriots to win this football game.
The Patriots do a lot of things well. The playoffs are set up for a team like the Patriots, especially after coming off the bye. To me, the Patriot relies on a lot of things. We know that Tom Brady at this stage of his career, Sony Michel and that offense, James White, those two combined, the running back room is the most talented on the Patriots offense. Besides their center and 2 guards, Tom Brady, so the center of their offense has the most talent. So I believe if they got 65 snaps, Sony Michel and James White, a minimum, going to touch the ball between them two 30 times. So they're going to be playing, they're going to speed up the clock in the game so that the Chargers feel that they're rushed. But it all is going to boil down to that guy, man. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback ever. Can he, because he's going to have some opportunities, 4 or 5 times, 20 to 30 yards down the field, does he just let it rip? Because in the playoff, Tom Brady plays with a different type of style. He knows he's only got so many more of these runs in him. It's a cold, blustery day in January. That's where he's made his name for himself. How much magic does Tom still have left? And I believe we're going to be able to see this. Is it going to be something like Peyton Manning that we saw in his second to last playoff run? Man, he was still Peyton Manning, the great Peyton Manning. But when they won the Super Bowl, though, he was a shell of himself. This team just supported him, but you could see it. Now, are we going to be able to see the Tom Brady that we saw in 2017 in the playoffs, which was in 2018, or the Tom Brady that we saw the 2018 18 season, who wasn't one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about. We said the same thing about Gronk. Maybe Gronk is saving something for the end of the year. Maybe he's saving something for the playoffs. Tom Brady didn't have great regular season. Maybe he's saving something for the playoffs. They've been a little messy. We saw games from this Patriots team where it was sloppy.
It's impossible to save something deliberately.
Sure.
Now, I just believe that the greats can go down and get something because they have what you know. It's called muscle memory. There's a certain amount of things that you're going to always be able to do athletically in the gym, running, because you've been doing it for so long. Great players have the ability. We've seen this basketball, Dwayne Wade, go in, grab some of that greatness. That's what I'm talking about with Tom Brady. It's no, oh, no, I put this on the back burner, this little reservoir of, no.
So you think they have that tank? There's something they're going to tap into.
I know Tom Brady has it. It's just how many more glimpses are we going to see of it? And we just didn't see a lot during the regular season. But I've been alive long enough to have seen last year's playoff run and the Super Bowl to know that he couldn't have fallen off that far that quick.
I have a prediction for this weekend about how this weekend's going to be remembered. I think this weekend and this game, most notably, is going to be looked at as the game we circle as, oh, that was when this dynastic Brady-Belichick run ended. That this is a home loss in their first playoff game against a team that's never beat them in a year, the worst year Tom Brady's had in a decade, the worst year this Pats team record-wise has had in a decade, that we're going to say, okay, like the last truly great moment was the comeback against the Falcons. They nearly had another one until Brandon Graham ruined it in the Super Bowl last year, because if they lose this weekend, which they could, they're the smallest of all the favorites, and I think they will, there's no reason to think that all of a sudden next year will be better. There's no reason to think 42-year-old Tom Brady, even if he maintains, is going to be better than 41-year-old Tom Brady. It's not as if the Pats have, but we've got these studs that were injured at the beginning of the year. They're coming back in reserve. Like, Gronk's not going to get better. They
don't have a Saquon.
Right.
They don't have an OBJ.
Correct.
The weapons are there, but the quarterback.
And I know, listen, I understand I'm putting myself in jeopardy here, as our mutual friend, Trent Dilfer, 5 years ago said this is the end of it, and 5 years later it's still going. I think this weekend's going to be remembered as the weekend that the greatest run in NFL history, in my eyes, greater than what the Steelers did in the 70s, greater than what the Cowboys did in the 90s, the Niners in the 80s. This is the weekend it ends. And that we're going to know it because a home loss at Gillette to a team that's never beaten.
All we have to do, this is all we have to do. We just have to reserve some space for Monday for Nick to say, oh, you guys are right.
He's never going to say that.
I hate to say it.
That's what I do.
As much as it pains me.
No.
That's what I do.
He doesn't have that woven into his DNA to be able to
No, if I'm wrong, listen, I say I'm
Really?
wrong when I'm wrong.
Sometimes.
I was wrong. I apologize to the Eagles last year. I was wrong about the Eagles last year. I don't think I'm going to be wrong about this one. I think that's how we're going to remember this.
We shall see. Good news is we're all back here Monday, no matter what.
About Ben Simmons' jumper.
Oh, no.
Got to take a break. Coming up, can Dak Prescott and the Cowboys keep it rolling against the Rams?
Wrong about Andrew Luck,
Next
his
time,
neck
first
beard.
things
He
first.
said it was attractive. I was like,
I tried at one point to duplicate it.
Back here, first things first, former Pro Bowl linebacker Bart Scott is working, but when he's done working, he will say hello.
So you're going to talk stuff about my suit yesterday. You're going to swagger jack me today, man.
Oh,
really
talk
Kool-Aid,
about
man? You're going to swagger jack me with the cranberry?
What? I can't defend you. You got to...
oh, this is just a Friday look, though. I had to get this with my James.
Okay.
I mean, I just had to do this today. It's a casual Friday. I'm coming in destroying people.
A little cement
getting in and out.
threes.
Yeah, I got things to do.
Is that red or is that what's
No,
the
that's
flavor?
cranberry as well. It's got the black window pane. It's nice.
I like it. Listen, I'm just saying.
You wear an
imitation-
cashmere suit for the second straight day, man.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. That's all I'm going to say.
Nick Swagger Jack to you?
No, Chris did. What? How would it be me? Am I wearing
He
cranberry?
just looked that way.
Did I throw my foot up on the chair?
Okay, you know what? I'm just trying to learn the lingo.
Swagger jack these highlights.
What was
too.
your
All right, here we
antennas?
go.
That means put some swagger into it.
Okay. The divisional
Steal it
round of
from
the
Nick.
playoffs get underway this weekend. First game, Colts and Chiefs. Colts, one of the hottest teams coming into the playoffs. Chiefs, one of the hottest offenses in league history. but KC has stumbled in postseason past. They haven't won a home playoff game in 25 years. I wasn't even born yet. So
Jenna was on her third job in Buffalo.
Bart was Rochester. What are you expecting in this one?
Well, I expect the Chiefs to come out flat. You know, usually when you have that off week, sometimes you come off flat. You know, Andy Reid's been notoriously good about coming off of a bye and being able to have success. He's a great game planner, but we're going to see about matchups. Last week we saw an interesting matchup where, you know, Gus Bradley made the adjustment. We're going to see who's going to make the best adjustments and who's going to be able to adjust off of who. I expect the Colts to come off because they're in the rhythm. They had a good game plan last week. They're going to come out, and it's going to be a period early in the first quarter where we're going to see where this game's going to go. When you look at how the games went last week, it was the teams that got on the board first, start feeling good about themselves first, was able to keep that momentum while the other team tried to make those adjustments. In the playoffs, CC knows, you know, you look up and it's almost the third quarter, you start to panic. Will Mahomes start to panic if he goes behind early? Because all the pressure's on Mahomes, because he's going to be the MVP, because they're the favorite.
Seed, yeah.
So they're going to have to go out and he's going to have to perform, and we're going to see how he adjusts to that. I know that, you know, Andrew Luck has the chill factor. Nothing gets to him. He's fine. He's been there, done that before. Now everybody around him has never done that. But when things get tough, you can always lean on that offensive line and that running game until you settle down.
I want to ask you a question, Chris, because the Minnesota Vikings, unfortunately, also have a bit of a tortured playoff history. And their fans, before you got there, they lost, what, 4 Super Bowls in their history? Could you guys as players in the game feel the energy in the stadium when the fans got tight, when it got nervous? Because one of the things you're talking about is not just Pat Mahomes and the team, but the only reason the history matters is, I mean, Pat Mahomes literally wasn't born the last time that they won a home playoff game. The history doesn't matter to Pat Mahomes, but if you can feel the energy in a stadium, is that a real thing?
The energy in the stadium is a real thing, but what's more real is what is the history of either the players and or the coaches. So I was also with Dennis Green. I was with Buddy Ryan when they were trying to get their first playoff win. Philadelphia's organization hadn't had playoff success. Minnesota hadn't had playoff success in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But they had plenty other years where they won some games in the playoffs. So it's not the same as Kansas City.
Got it.
It's a different set of pressure. But we knew the pressure was on Denny Green. As far as an African-American coach trying to get his first playoff win, Randall Cunningham trying to help him have playoff success. So those things become real. Now, being naive is not an excuse, all right, because that's what happens. You play the first half of these games, man, you are naive to what really playoff games about. And then in the third quarter, you're like, wow, how many possessions are we going to have? So how you get started in this game and the rhythm and getting your rhythm early is a great point that Bart makes.
Nick, do you think that Patrick Mahomes feels this pressure? He seems to play with this, like, reckless abandon. He's had a great year. I know he gets a little nervous at the beginning of games, but maybe more Andy Reid, but do you feel like this will fall down on that guy?
I think it is impossible to predict how someone's going to play in their first playoff game. No one would have thought no one thought Peyton Manning was going to be a different guy in the playoffs in the regular season until we saw him in the playoffs, right? No one would have thought that Tom Brady was going to go the other way, be a different guy in the playoffs in the regular season until we saw him in the playoffs. And so I have faith in Patrick Mahomes because he just had the best season of anyone in the league. I don't think the Chiefs' history will affect Patrick Mahomes. But I do think I would be lying to you if I said I know for a fact that Patrick Mahomes is going to play this game the way he would any other game. What I do know is where he hasn't had, there's only been one game all year he actually truly struggled. But there's been a handful of games where he wasn't sharp early. They were all road national television games. Now, the stakes are the highest in those spots. I know this game's not on the road, but it is national television. It is the biggest football game he's ever played in his life.
Yeah, when you talk about those two, though, I think the reason why they struggled, it's all based on support. The quarterback is the focus of the organization and the focus of the team. But if you don't support the quarterback, Peyton Manning, why did he struggle in the playoffs? Because the defense could never support him, and they couldn't have a running game. So he wasn't supported. Tom Brady, when he got into the playoffs, he was wondering, what is he going to do? He was supported in the best way we've ever seen a quarterback supported. That's one of the reasons why he's been the most successful. The guys that have multiple Super Bowl wins, they have been supported. So the question is, Jenna, how much are the Chiefs, this offense, the motion, the speed reverses, are they going to miss Kareem Hunt? Because I believe that now with a running back like him who's special, that they will miss him in this game.
Well, the competition's better, right? Just think, I went to the playoffs and went to 3 consecutive AFC championships, but 2 with a rookie. And it's because we slowed the game down for him. And it'd be interesting from the Chiefs' standpoint. Most guys like to defer because they like to have options. They like to know what they need to get, and they like to get the ball coming off the half on the opening kickoff. It'll be interesting to see if Kansas City wins the toss. Will they want to elect to keep the ball to try and get ahead and establish that rhythm? Because what happens is sometimes when you defer, you kick the ball off and the other team comes down. We always see the defense on their heels because you have that 15-play script where you come out and you've been practicing that all week. But what happens is when the other team goes up, and then you come out, now you have that pressure, and you don't know if you're going to get that 15-play script, until 8 minutes, 7 minutes in the first quarter, and does he panic? If they come out and the game goes where the Colts come out and score, field goal or whatever, Patrick Mahomes comes out, has the punt, then that's when you see him starting to panic. Because
and you start to chase.
Right, he's going to go on the sideline, he's going to start panicking and say, oh, man, this is not going well, knowing what you have on the other side, knowing that your defense can't support you.
I want to say one thing about this matchup as far as the Colts defense, because one of the reasons the Colts are here is because since they started 1-5, they have the #1 ranked defense in football. I'm just going to read you guys' names real quick. Derek Anderson, Derek Carr, Blake Bortles, Blaine Gabbert, Ryan Tannehill, Cody Kessler, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Eli Manning. That is the complete list of quarterbacks who have faced the Colts during this stretch of 12 spectacular defensive performances. Played Blaine Gabbert and Deshaun Watson twice. That's why there's only 10 names instead of 12. And so the point that I'm making is this Colts defense has been very, very good. It has been very, very good against all of them except for Deshaun, below average passers and some of the worst passers in the league. They are now facing the best passing attack in the league. I want to see how good this Colts defense, that zone scheme, goes up against the quarterback who has shredded zone defenses more than any quarterback in football.
Yeah, but look at us on the other side. Let's look at the Chiefs defense. Take out the elite quarterback.
Let's
look at the bums.
Yeah,
the bums have looked like Hall of Famers against that Chiefs defense. So I just believe that we would be missing part of the story. That Chiefs defense will play a part in this year's storyline to who wins Super Bowl 53. And for me, I believe that defense prevents them from winning the Super Bowl. How many games can they win? Can they get there? That's yet to be seen. But we have not seen a defense with an offense like that been able to hold the Lombardi Trophy.
And even when the Colts were notoriously bad back in the day, that defense played great during the playoffs. The game's going to be won in the trenches. Because to protect that Chiefs defense, that pass rush is going to have to be elite. And I know Bob Sutton. Bob Sutton was my linebacker coach. He wasn't as aggressive as Rex. He still has a lot of the same system that Rex has, but he doesn't have the pieces. So I think he's going to go with that bend, dope, break, hoping that his pass rushers can get there or they can get you behind the sticks early. The thing is, with the offensive line of the Colts, they rarely get behind the sticks because they are always able to fall forward and go forward with Mac because that offensive line is so elite. So that's where it's going to be. Can you steal and run blitz early on if you're the Chiefs and get them behind the sticks to make sure that second down is a throwing down that you know that you can prepare for?
It's 2nd and 8, not 2nd and 5.
I believe the key to the Chiefs is how many times can they get off the field actually on 3rd down? How many times in the red zone can they convert instead of giving up 7, only give up 3? And every time they create a turnover, it's like gold. Because if you give those extra possessions to Patty Mahomes, so even if they're not good as far as yards per play, even if they're not good as far as yards, in the red zone, if Indy gets to the red zone 6 times, can they hold them to 3 and 3?
Yeah, that's 30 points, but they'll take it. That's 30 points, but they will take it.
And there's no other team going out there that has that luxury to say, hey, the Saints don't have that. The Saints can't give up 30 points to Philadelphia. Kansas City and Patty Mahomes is the only team that can really look at that realistically and say, we're straight.
We'll take it. Every time the Chiefs force a kick, it is a huge win, even if the kick's a field goal. A punt is obviously a win, but even if it's a field goal, it is a win. What is if you tell me right now, someone that might have bet on the Chiefs this weekend, would you take the Colts scoring 30? Yeah, if it's exactly 30. Sign me up.
All right, Phil, guys, quickly. It's Friday. The game's this weekend. You're a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You got butterflies. Do you not?
You do.
Of course you do. You got to.
That's why you have to get in that rhythm and you got to run the ball
You
early.
don't get nervous?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
No. I get butterflies, but that means something's on the line.
It's a good
You want
feeling.
that. All right, Bart, stick around.
No, it
Coming
ain't
up.
no good feeling.
I get this. It's
like
the feeling I
Here we
get
go. When
every
I'm
time
I
you go off
open your
script.
mouth.
It's
Yep.
like when
Every
you
time
eat
I'm like, oh,
Chipotle,
Jenna, I
man.
see the
Always had
eyes twinkling.
Always had an all-star team with me.
It's
Do
like
Nick
when you have one
Foles-
of your cheat days
Here
and
we
everything.
go. That's not happened yet, but I'll let you know when it does. Do Nick Foles and the Eagles have any chance of upsetting the Saints next? First things first. Back here with Bart Scott. So Nick Foles and the Eagles head down to New Orleans trying to win their 5th straight playoff game. The last time these two teams played, Saints absolutely demolished them, 48-7. Then Nick Foles was still on the bench, and their playoff push had not begun. Now Nick Foles off the bench, behind center, and his teammates are making him shrines. All right, Bart, how did the Eagles pull off this upset?
Well, they have to take a close look at what they didn't do well last game, which is everything. It's hard to beat a team twice, right?
Bart, are you okay with the fact that the Eagles, they didn't watch the film initially after the big blowout and everything?
Yeah, I mean, when we got blew out by the Patriots 45-3, we buried the football and vowed never to mention it again. And then we went into Gillette and we won in the divisional round, in the playoffs.
Oh, it's a very similar circumstance.
Yeah, they buried the ball.
Yeah, no, but I'm
Swagger
saying, they didn't actually bury the ball. I'm saying you guys lost a game by 42. They lost a game by 41. They're playing on the road in the divisional round against that same opponent.
Yeah, this is going to be a closer game, and I think they're going to make the adjustments. And I'm curious to see what they do with Michael Bennett, because I think he may be the key. Fletcher Cox, he's a beast inside, but I think they need to consider moving Bennett over those guards because he's strong enough against the run, but he causes so many problems with his penetration. And, you think about when Alvin Kamara is in, it's more of a zone scheme.
Yes.
And the zone scheme is about penetration. That's how you stop it. We call it setting the edge from the inside. You can write that down. We call that setting the edge from the inside.
Right.
Opposed to when it's a power scheme, when Ingram's in, it's more double teams and movement getting up to the linebackers. So I think the key could be moving Bennett in the inside to cause those problems, opposite of Fletcher Cox, to allow you to be able to get more penetration. When Kamara is in, you have to understand what back's in and what they like to do out of those certain personnel groupings and things of that sort. And on the other side, Nick Foles, they're going to have to run the football, but they're going to have to get in the rhythm. And we're going to have to see what kind of coverage they decide to play, because when Nick Foles goes to those RPOs, the linebackers have to respect it. Let's see if the Saints decide to go with an invert safety to try and play that lurk type of coverage so that they can protect those linebackers and allow them to scrape and play free.
A lot what Chicago did.
Right.
If I'm the Saints, is there a chance on the RPOs they just, for the most part, until the Eagles prove they are actually going to run the ball, they just disregard the run part of the run-pass option?
Well, I think you don't disregard, but I think you disrespect Nick Foles because he's not Carson Wentz. He's not a threat to keep the ball and really hurt you that way. He doesn't really want to run it. So you want to flatten down that defensive end to be able to, try and get some tackles for a loss. And that's the game that you play because you know that he's not really a legitimate threat to pull it and actually keep it and run. He's trying to do that to see, it's a run-pass option to see if those, linebackers step up to be able to get that voided zone behind them.
The biggest thing and the biggest problem with the RPOs for defensive players, just like Bart, it's just like your natural instincts. Bart, I throw a punch at him, he's going to flinch. Now, as a defender, regardless of what you should, because if I put that ball in the running back's pocket and that offensive lineman fires out and down, everything that you have seen since you've been playing football at a high level has told you it's going to be a run. Even though the quarterback is not doesn't put the fear in you that he's going to run like Lamar Jackson, everything that they see says run, 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 and they take those 2 false steps, and that allows those seams to be created behind it. So that's kind of the trick to the RPOs and why they really work.
I want to ask you guys a question about a name we haven't mentioned much yet, but he might be the most important player for the Saints, not named Drew Brees. What are the Eagles going to do about Michael Thomas? I know the secondary's played better the last month of the season, but they still don't have a corner that you can say, we're just going to leave you on Michael Thomas. I feel like most of their game plan is going to be about slowing down Alvin Kamara. So Thomas, it's not even like they can build a game plan around stopping him because Kamara can wreck you in 2 different ways. What do you do with Michael Thomas in this football game?
You play complex coverage against him, right? You want to get up in his face because he's not he's a big guy, but he's not an elusive guy. You want to try and throw off his time and hope that this pass rush can get there. And then you're going to do different things, right? Sometimes you bring that safety in the box, but then he's swiping out. right? And when I say swiping out, that means he's taking anything short, slants, and that allows the corner to know that he can play deep. So then next time you come down, you have that same guy, and then he plays high, safety gets back. It's all about pre-snap, disguise and being able to do things of that sort. You got to be able to say, okay, somebody's going to have the heavy lifting. So I take my best corner, whoever that is, he goes on the second guy, right? Because if you put your best guy on Michael Thomas, it could be a draw.
Yes.
If they had a draw, those are big plays. All he has to do is get a couple explosives.
But that other receiver has an advantage going against your second,
which is Ted Ginn, right? And he's pretty much a one-trick pony. A lot of times we know that he's a vertical guy. You just want to play off. He's added a couple more routes to his route tree. But I take my best guy and say my best guy should be able to stop their second guy. I take my second guy and I give him safety help all over the place. Wherever he's in line, I make sure that I give him complex coverages. If linebackers are there, I'm late to the run. And I just want to go back for a second to what Cece was talking about when you talk about Nick Foles and the RPOs. What happens as a linebacker, no matter what, even if I know that it's a trick, because it's going to look like it's run past, because linemen get 2 yards before they get to upfield, before it's considered, legal man downfield. But as a linebacker, it just causes pause. So even if I don't fall for it, when he takes it out, I can't get back and get my linebacker depth. So that means the receivers already got behind me. So that's what makes it difficult, because I can't really get my linebacker depth. With your linebacker depth, if you're a good linebacker, when you see zones, you want to drop 10 to 12 yards, because those are where the routes are determined. If a guy's coming in, it's usually determined at 10 to 12, sometimes 15. But then when you do that, you end up short at like 7, and then now they're at 12 when you're supposed to be at 12, and now you can't really be in that window. You put tremendous pressure on the safeties who has to stay deep.
I'm going to give Philadelphia something else to do if you don't want to have one of your corners travel, because neither one of the corners are dominant. I would just let Michael Thomas, I'd let him get his stuff. I'd let him get his shots.
Really?
I would just try not to let him get 40. But I would let him get his shots, and I'm going to shut down everything else. I'm going to play, make sure everything in front of me as far as Teddy Ginn, because Michael Thomas in catching the ball. So what if he catches 10? I don't want him to catch 10 for 180. So once he catches it, I want him on the ground. He can catch 10 for 110. But you can't give up those big plays to the other receivers. You can't give up those big shots, because I just believe Philadelphia, just keep everything in front of you and allow that rush to take advantage of some of that inside pressure in trying to get to Drew Brees.
So it sounds like as long as they can slow down the Saints a little bit, you guys think the Eagles have a chance here?
Oh, listen, I
didn't say all that.
Well,
because I don't really know much of what you
listen,
say.
here's what I think. I think that this is a game that Doug Peterson is almost built to coach in, because he always wants to be the underdog. He wants to be the guy that you need trick plays. You need to go for it on 4th down. You need to take big chances. And so we have seen in limited sample, when they're the favorite, when they just need to go with a standard game plan, they haven't thrived. But in a game where they are a decided underdog, where they are going to have to make big plays on both sides of the ball, I do trust Doug Peterson in that spot to have his team ready. And we have seen from the Eagles, I don't think they're going to have the mentality of, let's just make sure we don't get blown out. In the first matchup, one of the reasons they got blown out is Carson Wentz threw 3 picks. This could be a game Nick Foles throws 3 picks. That's got to be on the board, because you are going to have to take chances. You are going to have to take shots. You are going to have to try to make big, chunk, game-changing plays on both sides of the ball that leave you susceptible to the opposite happening. Like, that's why this is such a tough game to pick. Could I see the Eagles winning? Yeah, they could. Could I see the Saints winning by 21 points? Absolutely. Like, the Eagles, to me, best chance is a game plan that allows them the possibility of getting blown out.
Yeah, I believe that the Eagles, especially their defense, you can't give the Saints 2 options. So I believe you put people in the box, take the Saints out of their running game. Because the last 2 years, what do the Saints want to do? They want to be able to pound the football. So as you mentioned, they need to be able to get in the gaps and get tackles for losses on 1st down. Their secondary can be had. So I'm concerned about their secondary and how they match up with Sean Payton. I believe after the bye, I believe Teron Armstead being healthy as far as their left tackle. He's got a torn pec, so he's not going to be healthy until he gets surgery. I believe that the Saints get back to the Saints that we saw in week number 2 to about week number 13. All right? Those are the Saints I believe show up on Sunday, and I believe that this is the end of the Nick Foles shrine.
Well, you have to have a plan for Kamara, too, right? So what happens is if he's offset and I'm a defensive end, don't worry about going to get the sack. I need you to chip him, and I need him to have to release inside of you, because I can't have him isolated against my linebacker. So I got to make sure I have him bracketed You look at me. So that means if he swings, that means you get upfield as a defender. Don't run by him. You chip him to make sure that he can't get out.
And that slows down your pass rush, but it tries to prevent Alvin Kamara from having a wheel route go for 40-yard touchdown.
Right, exactly.
Which we saw when Alvin Kamara it wasn't a wheel route, but we saw him get out on Malcolm Jenkins in the first game, have a big game. So you got to sacrifice something, but it's to prevent the big play.
All right, take a break.
She drawing over there. I'm like, I'll show you in a
little bit later on. Coming up, how can Amari Cooper dominate the Rams secondary? We'll talk Amari next on First Things First. The NFC Divisional Playoffs kick off this weekend on Fox. Tomorrow, Zeke and the Cowboys take on Todd Gurley and the Rams. And then on Sunday, it's Nick Foles and the Eagles battling Drew Brees and the Saints. It is all happening this weekend on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, we're going to get to the Cowboys-Rams in a second, but first, Celtics and Heat. James Johnson, destroying Kyrie with the tomahawk.
James Johnson has roundhouse kicked a basketball out of, when a ball gets jammed between the rim and the backboard, he has roundhouse, yes, he has. It's on video. He's one of the greatest athletes in the league. He's also a martial arts expert. Kyrie, you got to hold that L, man.
All right, Clippers, Nuggets.
I would say you were prepared for that highlight.
Nikola Jokic grabs the defensive rebound, makes the perfect full-court pass ahead to Jamal Murray.
Kevin Love, LeBron James, typically that's what we see from them. Jokic, one of the best passers we see in the NBA. Great timing and anticipation, knowing that he's running out at the three. He's going to be available, but right in his lead glove, great play.
All right, college hoops now. Murray State's John Morant looking like classic Vince Carter.
Oh, my goodness.
That Vince Carter dunk was so nasty. I'll never forget that one. This one right here, this guy's not going to forget this one. I got people texting me saying, hey, Chris, the last time you went over this highlight, you missed some stuff. I was like, no, it's Friday. I ain't trying to get fired, homie. Don't be trying to send me that spicy stuff.
We see what happens there. See, you know what
happens?
You know what my reaction watching that highlight is, though? How this young man could have avoided it.
What, try to block
it? Go for the block, not for the charge.
Oh, yeah, that's what Nick Wright would have done.
Man, I wouldn't have stood there like a charge.
Not to talk about.
No, you told me that. You're not one of the executives.
Shit, I almost.
Yeah. You almost got a phone call from one of the executives.
All right, let's move on to what we're looking at on the TV screen. Cowboys. Amari Cooper was a big part of turning around Dallas this season. Since joining the Cowboys, the team is 8-2. Saturday, he'll be facing Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, who he faced twice a year in Oakland. And if you ask him, that is definitely an advantage for him.
Obviously, I know their tendencies, but at the same time, they know mine. So I think it definitely helps me. You know, I played against those guys twice a year, both of them. I know them in and out. I know how they play. And I'm able to tell, like, my teammates or quarterback, you know, their tendencies, so it definitely helps.
Do they know you in and out? How do you combat that if they do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think they know me in and out, no.
I love that it works one way, but it doesn't work the other way. So that's an interesting point. How much will experience really factor into this? The fact that he knows those guys pretty well. He played them twice a season.
Yeah, I think it's important that people understand that, especially when you play against people twice a year that Amari Cooper talked about, as far as in your division. It started for me when I was in college because we used to get great scouting reports on the defensive backs. And we got a lot of Big Ten defensive backs, Purdue, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, guys that were going to be playing in the NFL. But it started early for me playing against Purdue and Rod Woodson. My coach pointed out to me, Chris, you're going to be playing against this guy for a long, long time. So once I start facing him my freshman year, you start figuring out tendencies and you watch clips of them. You like to, you know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they like to do. So Rod and I, not only are our college careers mirrored each other, but then our pro careers mirrored each other. He's one of my teammates there in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I was able to experience early how much it will help you. So you start to get a book. I taught Randy Moss to be able to do it. Even when we went to the Pro Bowl, we would go over the defensive backs there, what we knew about them. So he started to develop a book on the defensive backs that he would be facing not only that season, but throughout his career. So Amari Cooper, he does have intel. I like the fact that he realizes, too, and telling the reporter, it's not an advantage for me because they face me also, but realizing what do they like to do, but more importantly, what don't they like to do, because in pressure situations, what is Wade Phillips going to do with these corners? And Amari knows that in pressure situations, they're going to play man-to-man, and they're going to try to be physical, and they're going to try to come after Amari at the line of scrimmage. That's what they did when they were in Kansas City and in Denver as far as the corners, and that's what they're going to do in this matchup against the Cowboys.
All right, I think a lot of people watching don't totally understand about tendencies of corners. I think people look at corner play, and it's like, all right, if you're man-to-man, the job is just cover the other person. So when you were, let's talk about a great player, right? Darrell Green. You played him throughout your career, right?
Yes.
And at one point, you guys were in the same division, Washington and Philadelphia. And so you had a book on Darrell Green, as great as he was.
Yes.
What are the types of things you have written down or mental notes on that you want to avoid or that he wants to avoid? Like, what is actually in there that we're talking about?
The one thing you have to know about Darrell Green, among many things, is he has amazing recovering ability. He's one of the fastest human beings you'll ever face. He's undersized, but he will play bump and run. And undersized doesn't mean that he's not physical. He is very, very physical. He's not a person you can talk to. He's very pleasant going about his business. You're not going to be able to get into his headspace. So those are the 4 or 5 things you get on Darrell Green, and you vary that from Deion Sanders, Rod Woodson, Aeneas Williams, Darren Woodson, who's up to the heart, Ty Law, Champ Bailey.
So for example, and obviously I've never played against Aqib Talib, but I would imagine one of the things in that is going to be that he will talk, and you can get in his head a little bit. Like Aqib Talib, he's going to be physical. We know that. We know how good of a player he is, but we also know he is incredibly emotional. Now, Amari's not a talker, but I wonder what the experience of going against Aqib Talib. Marcus Peters, by the way, very similar makeup to Aqib Talib. I think it's one of the reasons they thought those two would make a nice tandem. So obviously these guys have experience with Amari Cooper, but I don't know how useful their experience is in comparison to his, because he is a different player right now than he was the last year and a half in Oakland. He is a guy that has gotten back to who he was a few years ago than he was the last season he played in Oakland when he played against both these guys that combined.
One thing I used to always tell Randy, once they ride in the car, they know how fast the car can run. So they have tremendous intel in Amari Cooper. What are the things he's special at? Man, his change of direction and his releases off the line of scrimmage. So, no, they do have tremendous intel. They know how fast he is, they know how explosive he is, and they know that you must immediately try to get him on the ground to prevent him from getting going, and he has elite speed down the field. So there is tremendous intel that the defensive backs are taking into the contest.
How big a part of this game plan do you think Amari Cooper is going to be? He had a couple of big games with the Cowboys, and then a couple games where he was there and wasn't utilized.
Cowboys running out of receivers now.
Yes.
Alan Hearns, I mean, bless him, he had a terrible injury. Cole Beasley, the first time he touches the ball, they're going to stop the game because he's going to come over.
He's been nursing a high ankle sprain for the last month.
And that's an impossible position to play with that injury. Like, you can't change direction. You saw it first time he caught a ball. They
had to go get taped
give him credit. Like, he came back in the game, but it's Amari and Michael Gallup. Like Michael Gallup, finally, we saw in the wild card round, Dak and him got a bit of a rapport after, 46% completion percentage targeting Michael Gallup. But whatever the passing attack for Dallas is going to be, it is going to be Amari Cooper-centric. There's no doubt about that.
Question marks as far as the receiver. Cole Beasley's been injured the last month. He's got a high ankle sprain he's been dealing with. You see it every time that he's tackled on the field. He's hampered as far as trying to continue. So Jarwin, the tight end, week number 17, we saw him show up with the 100-yard game. Can he get back involved in the passing game? He's nicked up. So Amari Cooper, he's got to have 10 targets. It's impossible for them to win without Amari Cooper having a big game. So not only are these guys not be available typically full go for the game, they haven't been available for practice. So all they've been throwing to is Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. So Amari Cooper's got to have a big day in the Coliseum.
All right, break time coming up. Can Andrew Luck and the Colts take down the MVP favorite? That's next on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, we're going viral. So Nick Foles is hoping to carry the Eagles to back-to-back NFC Championship games. Practice jersey. Practice, that must be him in practice. Looking for a win over the Saints on Sunday.
Nice fabric, lightweight.
If Philly pulls off the upset, we've got an idea of how Doug Peterson will treat the team.
We'll watch this video, and then I'll treat you to some ice cream. All right, let's check out this video and then again treat you to some ice cream, man. We'll play this video and then I'll treat you to some ice cream. We got a little ice cream coming up before it all melts. I know we got some ice cream that's melting, so we got to get out of here. Wish you guys the best of luck. Treat you to some vanilla ice cream here in a second. We got a little video right here, and then I'm going to treat you to some Haagen. Hopefully, you guys know that last week, Monday night or Sunday night. Who knew that? That's bull. Haagen. Let's go. We'll get over here and get some ice cream before it kind of. Nice job on the Haagen dogs last week. And then again, I'll treat you to some ice cream. We got a great video for you, and then we got some ice cream that's melting. That's some ice cream could be melted, but we got some ice cream for you here right after the video. I know it's a little warm in here. We'll get you out after this. Got some ice cream next door. Here we go.
It's gotta be a joke.
I love ice cream too. I'm with that, Doug Peterson. Love it. Haagen-Dazs is the absolute best. No, because they're filming probably on a Saturday night, the night before the game. They have these little treats and everything at the hotel. So he's wrapping up one part of the highlights. He's getting ready to break it down. Hey, guys, ready for the game. He gives a little speech. And, hey, when we get done here, we got a little ice cream.
And you can tell that those videos were in chronological order from week 1 to week 17.
He had some ice cream,
Doug Peterson was in chronological order treating himself to ice cream.
Yeah, but you can eat ice cream and stay fit.
Wait, is ice cream a metaphor for something, or are they literally all getting some vanilla ice cream? How? Yeah.
You know what ice cream's a metaphor for, Jenna?
What?
Ice cream. Now, Sean Payton.
These are big men who they want little ice cream cones?
Well, okay. I'm going to disregard that.
Jenna, they're at a at establishment, all right? Typically at a hotel or at their facility where they have chefs and everything. They have staffing that provides food and beverage.
Right, why?
We don't have to explain this. Can we talk about something else?
They don't have cones. It's just ice cream by the barrels, Jenna. They don't have sprinkles out there.
Don't they have access to
anybody
better
want sprinkles?
Treats. Okay. Sorry, I didn't understand. Ice cream seems...
We do not accept your apology.
Time for your AT&T wake-up call. There's got to be someone out there who understands what I'm talking about. LeBron James...
My brain just popped. Oh, LeBron. Oh, I'm sorry.
LeBron James will miss at least another 3 games with that groin injury. The Lakers said they plan to reevaluate him on Wednesday. Nick, what was your reaction to this?
Well, it's unfortunate for LeBron. The Lakers are in Utah. It's a tough game. Then they have a couple really easy games, including a home game against the Cavs. But it's also unfortunate for me because I now have to look at Chris Carter and say, looks like you were right on this one. I listened to LeBron after, said he dodged a bullet. The local reporter said he was in a good mood. I said 3 to 5 games. You said you thought it was more significant. It's going to be at least 11 games missed, which makes this officially the most significant injury of LeBron's career.
Right. Early in our partnership, you told me I'm the only person that you ever worked with that wasn't an idiot. So I would like to be a person that doesn't. Yeah, you did. You said all the other guys were idiots.
Those people watch this show.
Man, you told me they were dumb. You told me they were a liability. You told me one day the guy came in and acted like a clown. You're like, listen, that's you.
Okay,
listen.
That's true. That's Mark Carman. You met him when you took him to a football game. He was an idiot.
No, all my other partners have been liabilities. That's what he told me. Not the things you told me about your great partnerships and all the help and assists you've had in broadcasting. This guy, we're the only competent people he's ever worked with.
It's not true.
It's interesting that he didn't say that to me. Moving on to Antonio Brown.
Not to lie.
His situation with the Steelers
he
has
was trying
seemingly
to throw you
gone
back in with the ugly fishes, Jenna.
from bad to worse. What?
Nothing. The team's owner and president.
The team's owner and president, Art Rooney II, said it's hard to envision Antonio Brown being on the Steelers next season. What was your reaction to this, Nick?
I don't think they have a choice. You no-show, no-call, most important week of the year, and then afterwards you won't answer the owner or the coach's phone calls. How do they bring you back? How do they? I don't know how. And in a world where Amari Cooper goes for a 1, what does even belligerent Antonio Brown go for? A 1 and a 3? Maybe more than that? They'll get a good return for it, but they're going to have to get rid of arguably the best receiver in the league.
Jen, I was shocked about 2 things. I was shocked that Antonio hadn't changed his behavior because, of course, now it's starting to come out. Not his first incident, not the first time they've warned him, not the first time they've had problems with him. And I'm shocked when any of the Rooneys are in the paper saying anything discouraging, disparaging, or anything in a negative standpoint about a Pittsburgh player, current or former, That's newsworthy to me. That doesn't happen. So how they're going about business in Pittsburgh is totally different. Shocked by that.
In a poll conducted by The Athletic, Tom Brady is the player NFL defenders least want to face in a big game. I guess that's the respect 5 Super Bowl rings will earn you. See, you agree with the players?
Absolutely. No player in clutch moments has been bigger than Tom Brady. There's not a reason why he's not the greatest quarterback. There's no excuse we can make. We can't say it's Belichick, can't say it's the talent around him. Tom Brady has proven himself, and there's no player based on that poll that has more respect in the critical category that they put that in. Tom Brady.
I 100% agree with this. And people think I'm down on Brady. This regular season was the worst he had in a decade. That does not mean this postseason he won't look again the way he has looked in so many postseasons. And they could be down 24-3 this weekend, and you still can't count him out.
Yes.
Because of number 12, until he retires, he will hold this crown as most feared player in the league, and he should.
All right, talk some Cowboys-Rams now. Cowboys head west to take on L.A. Saturday night. It is on Fox. Dallas looking to continue their momentum from last Saturday, while the Rams are looking to make good on a 13-win season. Sean McVay and Jared Goff searching for their first playoff win as a duo. Here's the head coach talking about last year's playoff loss.
Last year was a great year for us, being able to win the division. Very fortunate to be able to do that again. But I think there's a confidence that's been earned where there's an expectation of, we have a lot of respect for the Dallas Cowboys, but we expect to win this game. And we know it's going to take a great effort, but we're going in with the mindset and mentality that we expect to win. You know, I think that confidence is something that's been earned every day by our players. And then we got to go out and prove it on Saturday night against a great opponent.
CC, there's not that much pressure on the Cowboys. They've already exceeded expectations. A lot of people had them left for dead at 3-5 in this season. But for this 13-win Rams team, there are far more expectations of what they're going to be done to avoid the one-and-done last year. How much pressure is on Sean McVay and the Rams? I
think that's kind of the story of this franchise right now. Like, really, who are they? Are they going to be a team with their young coach that's ripped off 2 double-digit seasons? Because I think that a lot of times it's important to inform people, like, what's really going on in the NFL, because I believe they missed some of the parts. The L.A. Rams for the last 20 years have been awful. All right, now they put together back-to-back double-digit win seasons. So even if they don't win this playoff game, let's not trip as far as where this organization is. Now, they will have more pressure on them, but we've seen coaches have pressure on them in the playoffs, like Tony Dungy early in his career. Man, how successful can he be? So can he get over that? So they have turned this franchise around. This is a perfect matchup for them. They should have the confidence and expectations playing at home after a bye week. They had a spectacular regular season. But you don't put together, you don't go get Ndamukong Suh, you don't trade for Talib, you don't go get the other
Marcus
corner.
Peters.
Like, you don't go get those guys and be like, I'm satisfied with the divisional playoffs. So
no.
Great expectations should be met by a win. They're more talented than Dallas. Their program is a little further ahead than Dallas's, even though they've been doing it less time than Dallas. But Sean McVay and this organization has been transformed by how they're going to conduct their offense, how they're going to attack, how they're going to go after players, how they're trying to win right now. That was their whole approach as far as the draft and free agency, and it should play out against the Cowboys this weekend.
There is a distinct amount of pressure on 2 specific teams this weekend. In the AFC, it's the Kansas City Chiefs, because of the history, because they got the MVP, because of Andy Reid's history, because of the 1 seed. And in the NFC, even more so than on the Chiefs, it's on this Los Angeles Rams team. Because not only are they so all in on this season because of the 1-year acquisitions, because of what they did this offseason, but also because of what happened last year. Nobody held it against them. They will get more criticism for losing last year's playoff game on Monday if they lose this year's playoff game than they did after last year's loss. Because it was, okay, this young quarterback, young coach, good season. He had a couple fumbled punt returns, kick returns, went against you, no problem. But if you have 24 combined playoff wins in 2 years, if your coach is such the flavor of the month that guys that look like him, sound like him, friends with him are getting head coaching jobs. The quarterback's coach in Los Angeles might be getting a head coaching job because of the Sean McVay allure. If they go 13 wins and lose to Dallas at home, that is going to be, fair or not, a stinging indictment on what they've built there. So that's where I think they have enormous pressure. No one will kill them if they lose in the conference championship game to a Saints team that is better, that will be in New Orleans, that will be favored in that game. But you lose as a touchdown plus favorite to Dallas when I think everyone thinks you are more talented than Dallas, you're more rested, you're healthier. That I think that we turn on you quick now, and it'll be a lot of that Sean McVay shine will be gone.
Yeah, a lot of pressure there in L.A., but I still think there's more pressure in Kansas City. There's always more pressure when you're the #1 seed. And also you have franchise history that if you lose, that you are getting ready to build on that negative history. So if Patty Mahomes' first time in the playoffs, him losing, being after MVP season, Andy Reid, after the way he struggled in the playoffs, to me, if both these franchises come out with the loss, more dramatic of what's going to happen in Kansas City into their overall psyche than with the Rams.
All right, so let's stick with Kansas City. Colts and Chiefs are kicking off their playoffs tomorrow afternoon. Colts, one of the hottest teams coming into the playoffs. Chiefs, one of the hottest offenses in league history. But KC has stumbled in postseasons past. They haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. Nick, what has to happen for the Colts to upset the Chiefs?
So I think this is, I mean, we can see the script, how it would play out if the Colts win. Early in the game, Chiefs get the first possession. Pat Mahomes overthrows a wide receiver. They get stuffed on a run. All of a sudden, they're punting. Colts drive right down through the defense and score a touchdown. All of a sudden, the Chiefs start pressing. They have another three and out or a drive that ends in a kick, even if it's a field goal. And the Colts, what do next? They run Marlon Mack. They run Marlon Mack some more. They face maybe a 3rd and short, doesn't matter. And all of a sudden, it's 14-3, and you're like, wait, what has happened? That could happen by the 5-minute mark of this game. You have the ability for the Colts, in my eyes, to be patient. And the Chiefs, the question, will they be patient? You have a Colts team that can say, look at the defense and say, what are you giving us? We are fine taking it. That's what they did against the Texans. Early in the game, the Texans were really focused on stopping the run. So T.Y. Hilton had 3 catches, 63 yards on the first drive. Then all of a sudden, they started focused on T.Y. Hilton, and Marlon Mack ends the game with 150 yards. I don't know that the Chiefs have the ability to do that to the same degree. I think the Chiefs, okay, you're giving us the run, we still might have to pass the football. So the path to victory for the Colts is Pat Mahomes tries to make one great play that he doesn't have to. It gets tip ball pick. Like I know I've been very heavy on that the Chiefs should be the favorite. The Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. But this is not a game where you can't close your eyes and envision how the Colts can win. Like, I think it's very clear how the Colts can win. Dominate time of possession, take care of the ball, gash the Chiefs on the ground, and don't let the only part of the Chiefs defense that's good, their pass rush, get to Andrew Luck. Those are the pieces of the recipe for the Colts to go to Arrowhead and continue this bad Chiefs playoff history.
And if that is the recipe, the Colts have all the ingredients. This is not something that they have to tilt. All these things are things that they do. The last 4 weeks, Marlon Mack's averaging 110 yards. In those 110 yards, almost 33 minutes in time of possession. If you look at the NFL since week number 7, since they started off 1-5, they got 7 touchdown drives of 12 plays or more, most in the NFL. So if you're talking about how they're going to do it, it would be right within the style for which they've done. Since week number 7, they've had 12 of the 7 of those touchdowns. The Chiefs, on the other hand, you think they can do it? No, they can't. They've only done that twice. The Colts have big play ability, just like the Chiefs. 12 touchdown drives of 5 plays or fewer. So the reason why coming into this game, the reason why I thought this was the worst matchup, because they have quick strike ability in the Colts, just like the Chiefs, and they also have the ability that the Chiefs don't have. They can have those long drives by running and or passing and eat up that time of possession, eat up that clock. And when you can run the football, when you get in the red zone, it's a lot easier to score than most teams. So for me, this is not the matchup that I wanted the Chiefs to be able to have because of Andrew Luck, where he is. 39 touchdown passes this season that people don't talk about. And Marlon Mack started the season with a bad hamstring. They are a different football team since he has come back and gotten healthy.
The only thing the Chiefs have done well defensively is get to the opposing quarterback, get sacks, and because they get to the opposing quarterback, force fumbles. Like force fumbles, tip balls.
With this
and well, they're up against what I believe to be the best offensive line in football. That's the part of this matchup that to me is the most concerning for the Chiefs. Your defense only does one thing well, and you're up against the team that it's the most difficult to do that against.
Also, with a quarterback who you know isn't going to get rattled, who's been there before, and who understands how big this game is. All right, coming up, can Phillip Rivers get his first win ever against Tom Brady this weekend? Talk about that next on First Things First. Back here at Bart Scott. So the Patriots kick off their postseason against Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. They know the Chargers finished the regular season with a better record, a better defense, some would say a better offense. But the Patriots are trying to reach the Super Bowl for the 4th time in 5 years, with a quarterback who, despite slowing down, is far from done. All right, Bart Scott, how do the Patriots beat the Chargers?
Well, there's no team better at situational football than the New England Patriots. I know we have seen some chinks in the armor. You go back to the Miami game when Tom, took the sack before halftime, things of that sort, things that we're not accustomed to seeing. But they know how to lock in, and they know what playoff football is all about. I look at two people. I look at Gronkowski in the red zone and being able to get explosive plays if you decide to go man-to-man. And I look at James White. James White with 87 receptions, has been killing teams. And it's his ability to be isolated against linebackers to get explosive plays. That's how they get their explosive plays. They thought Josh Gordon was going to be the guy to help them stretch the field. It's still more about James White. They get the ball in his hands. He's able to make guys miss. And then, of course, Sony Michel being able to run the ball in between the tackles. What'll be interesting to see what type of front is Gus Bradley going to come up with, because last week he came with the bear front. You're familiar with it. Buddy Ryan created it. Pretty much he covered up the center and he covered up the guards, allowing his safety 7 DB type of defense to run and scrape. You can't get away with that this week because the Patriots are one of very few teams that utilize a fullback. So if you do that, they'll make you pay because they'll isolate those little
double the nose, fullback lead up, and bust one of the little safeties in their mouth.
Right, absolutely. It come right down. So you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do. I think Meebane's going to be back this week.
Yes, he is.
So this is going to allow them to go with the underfronts and the overfronts. But it's going to be how they decide to bracket Sony Michel and bracket James White. And also, can Derwin James come down man-to-man, one-on-one, and be able to take Gronkowski out of this game to allow you to keep your safeties high and not get the explosive plays up?
I'm glad you mentioned Rob Gronkowski, because in years past, of course, he would be a huge key of any big Patriot game. This year just hadn't been.
Last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It just hasn't been the case this season. I do wonder what the week off did for Gronk. And I wonder if Jenna, you were talking earlier about being able to Brady being able to tap into some greatness that he has. I wonder if Gronk just has whatever he had left in the tank, how replenished it was by the week off. Because the last half of the season, there's only been one game Gronk had more than 3 catches.
Wow.
All year long, he only had 3 touchdowns. They put all these incentives in his contract. He didn't hit
any of them.
A lick of them because this year he has not looked like, forget the best tight end in football, he hadn't looked like one of the 5 best tight ends in football. Does he have something he can tap into? Because if not, Derwin James will erase him. Right. Derwin James would be the exact type of player you wanted to match up against prime Gronk, much less a lesser Gronk. So I think that is a key. And I think Chris's point of the page from yesterday, I thought it was it's almost obvious, but I hadn't even considered it, so I guess it's not that obvious. Last week, they were playing the quarterback who had the least ability to audible at the line, the least freedom to look at what the defense is doing and change it. You said they would call it, run it, is what you're doing with Lamar.
Yes.
Now, the Chargers are playing the quarterback with the most freedom, the most ability to look at what the defense is showing him and say, this is what's better for us.
5 seconds. You have to wait until 5 seconds before you reveal what type of front you're in. You don't move until Tom Brady points out the mic. Everything else is smoke and mirrors. If he don't point out the mic, he hasn't set the protection. He's always going to set his protection. But what San Diego does that is unique, they're able to go to this NASCAR type of package. When you think about the Giants and the trouble they gave the offensive line, it's Bosa moving inside sometimes. It's Melvin Ingram off the ball, being able to isolate against the guard, and it's this kid, Nwosu, who allows them to be able to do that. And can those guys get pressure up the A-gaps, because Tom Brady, if he ever takes his eyes from downfield, it's only when he gets A-gap pressure. So it's going to be important that you get interior pressure on Tom Brady, because as great as he is, he's one of the least accurate quarterbacks on the move, because he's one of these guys that hears the rush and sees the rush. If you get to him early and get to him often and get him on the ground, that's the most important part. Can they get to him with 4? And if they go out there with these little guys with Nwosu, Bosa, and Ingram, do they change the play and play power football and make you pay? It's going to be a constant chess match all day.
Yeah, I think the chess match is important. Match is important between Gus Bradley and Josh McDaniel, what they're going to try to do. I believe Brady's ability to make plays down the field to punish this defense is a key to the game. But you know, when you're playing against the Patriots, their defense, they're not giving up more than 20 points, especially at home. So my key of the game is on the offensive side of the ball for the L.A. Chargers. Man, you got to be able to score some points. Phillip Rivers, if he don't have 4 or 5 sound bites talking about, Belichick, that was a stupid blitz that you had all
Talk about like mic'd up, not sound bites after the game.
If he doesn't have some of them moments, if he doesn't have a couple first down moments where he's fist pumping and things like that, and it becomes really important outside. The secondary of the Patriots is really underrated. Can the wide receivers and can the tight ends, Antonio Gates, he's running in slow motion. Can he convert on third down? Because he's big on third down. And the wild card in the game.
Hunter Henry's been a full go all week. When you talk about the tight ends, a guy who tore his ACL in the offseason training activities, hasn't played all season long. He's now been a full go in practice.
Yeah, and I know fantasy football fans, I know people are like, oh, Hunter Henry, he's back, he's activated. But let me tell you what New England's going to let him know. When he catches the ball, if he catches it, we are tackling him on his knees. We're going to ask him, do you want another surgery? So mentally, he's in the game. He's practicing, but those practices aren't like the game. So him having an effect on this game, is he able to be a wild card in this game? He wouldn't be effective against Bart Scott.
Right, you're smirking, man.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way, because you cut my guy that's coming off injury, Gronk, I'm chopping that wood too. Because you got body parts, bionicle, elbows, knees, and all that stuff, too.
Yeah, that scar is still fresh on that knee.
One name to watch in this game. I'm trying to do this for each game. Desmond King. He's a first-team All-Pro punt and kick returner.
Yep.
He's also been one of the best slot corners in football this year. Derwin James and Casey Hayward get a lot of the headlines in the San Diego and Los Angeles secondary. Desmond King's been excellent. And
that matchup against Edelman.
Edelman is key. And we never see the Pats lose the special team battle in the playoffs. I think they lost it to you guys when they lost an AFC divisional game. They ran a silly fake punt that didn't work out. If Desmond King busts off a big return, that could be a key play in this game. Watch him throughout the game.
Just quickly, when you look at this team, when you did this the other day with the list, you said, who are the best players in this matchup? And except for Brady, they were almost all Chargers. You look at who's got the better defense, it goes to the Chargers. You could argue the Chargers have the better offense. And yet, why does it feel like this game is really hard to see and to pick who's going to win? Is it that? Is it the lure of the Patriots at home, at Gillette, all of it?
Gillette's just a tough place to play, and this is a team coming 2 weeks in a row coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, and they get the bad draw because they're playing at 10 o'clock their body clock time.
For the second straight
week. For the second straight week, and they've handled that. They've been road warriors because they really don't have a home field, and let's see if they can bring that momentum. You have to manufacture your own hype on the road because everybody else is against you. You have to take that mentality. You got to go in there. You got to be fearless. You can't just try and win this game a little bit. You got to go out there and try and step on the New England Patriots' throat.
Two things. Top to bottom, the Chargers roster from the 1 to 53 is as strong as anyone in the NFL. And they have one of the most underrated quarterback, one of the true leaders in the NFL in Rivers. Can he get that playoff win in Gillette? That's the reason why we give him hope, is because that roster is strong.
All right, Bart, stick around. Coming up, can Dak Prescott and the Cowboys keep it rolling against the Rams? Ahead on First Things First. The NFC Divisional Playoffs kick off this weekend on Fox. Tomorrow, it's the Cowboys taking on the Rams. Then on Sunday, you got your Eagles battling the Saints. It is all happening this weekend on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Back here with Bart Scott, we're going viral. Nikola Jokic went off for 18, 14, and 10 last night for his 5th triple-double of the season. And with the Nuggets' big man now being inserted into MVP conversations,
Nice.
Who having these conversations?
better
It's baby
to
Dirk
talk
right
to
there,
than
man.
former Super Bowl MVP Von Miller, with the two Denver Stars exchanging jerseys.
All right, let me just say something real quick.
Say something real
Nikola
quick.
Jokic is on the path a lot of NBA players go on, which is underrated for a long time. And then so many people talk about how underrated they are. They become overrated. Nikola
Kevin
Jokic
Love.
has been an excellent player on a very good team. But he cannot be on your MVP list unless your list goes 10 deep. Maybe 9th or 10th in the MVP conversation. Like,
Oh,
let's all
there we
chill
go.
out.
I love it. There we go. We got what date here? We got January the 11th. We got an update on who's 9th and 10th in the MVP race in the MVP. Great stuff.
I was just letting you. We're at the midway point of the season. You want me to go 1 through 9? I can if you like.
No. We don't want
Let me get
that.
1 through 5.
And we don't
I'll take
want to
1
hear
through 5.
about that list, or we don't
Entertaining.
want to hear about the conversation.
They don't start with
either
Harden.
Jenna and Deontay talking about MVP list, because that's where'd that list come from?
What?
What?
Giannis won. Giannis won.
Here we
Harden
go.
2.
He's going to do it anyway.
Whoa. Giannis won.
Giannis won.
Come on, man.
Watch the tape. Write this down. Watch some Bucks games.
It's a
Get
yellow
league pass.
pen. You're not going to be able to see it.
Stop
'cause of
spending
the
so much
font.
money on them suits.
I'm balling
and
on a budget.
Spend some money on some league pass.
Can I use your code?
They're telling me we got to talk some football. Back to the Cowboys now. They head west to
If
take
he's
on
not
the
using
Rams
someone else's
Saturday
code.
night. A lot of great matchups in this one. You got two of the league's best running backs in Ezekiel Elliott and Todd Gurley. You got two third-year quarterbacks in Dak Prescott and Jared Goff. And you got two very hungry teams looking to stay alive another weekend.
This is another game, as I continue to say, is way back when we're 3-5 and our backs are against the wall. This is the same thing. Our backs are against the wall. We've got to go win a game, a very important game, and we're excited for our chance to go do that.
Big stage. We playing at home. You know, we try and play for it all. So it start this week, and we got to finish strong and trying to make it happen.
All right, Bart, what's the biggest key, do you think, in this matchup? Is it going to come down to the running backs? Will it be the quarterbacks?
For me, it's
or is it
definitely
the defense?
For me, it's definitely the running backs and how this Dallas defense can try and take away Todd Gurley, who I think was in the conversation early on in the season for MVP before he got injured. And you look at what the Dallas Cowboys defense was able to do against the #1 rushing team last week, holding them to 27 yards. You know, they played that, 11 personnel, 1 tight end, one running back. And they have that lateral running game with Todd Gurley that turns into a power game, but it's pretty much about getting you going laterally and then finding the one cut, kind of like how people remember how Denver used to do. Well, what I love is the gap control in which the Dallas defense plays with. And on the second level, I want to see that collision course between Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith against Todd Gurley. If they can take him away and put it in Jared Goff's hands and put him in the phone booth like they did at the New Orleans Saints, we see if Jared Goff can take the next step, because he hasn't shown me that he can take the game away by himself if Gurley's taken out of it.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm with you. Jared Goff is the most important player in this game. If they have the ability to be able to attack Dallas's defense through the air and on the ground, there's no way Dallas is going to be able to win. So I think that the running game, it's going to be entertaining. You got great linebacker play of the Dallas Cowboys, and you have a great running scheme versus a rested Todd Gurley. Now, Todd Gurley, it's been a tale of 2 seasons. Todd Gurley before he got nicked up, and the Todd Gurley after that. After he got nicked up, it affected Jared Goff. It affected this offensive line. You put in Cooper Kupp being out as that safety blanket as an inside slot receiver. How much has the quarterback adjusted to not having him? So for me, it's about the quarterback and throwing the ball and attacking down the field. If you look at the first, say, 30 plays of the Rams attack and say, man, I believe that the coach is attacking the defense, that means they got confidence in the quarterback. And if they have confidence in the quarterback, I believe it's going to go throughout the rest of the team. I believe in Ndamukong Suh, they will take advantage of the lack of having Travis Frederick there as a starting all-pro center, as having young Connor Williams at the left guard. I believe Suh and Donald, I believe they eat up that interior offensive line, and it's put in the quarterback's hands, and Jared Goff gets it done there in the L.A. Coliseum.
Listen, Suh and Donald are obviously the keys for this Rams team defensively. Donald's been great all year. forcing turnovers and getting to the opposing quarterback. Sue has been disappointing. Even if you might say, well, the sacks are being taken away by Donald, fine. But this team's been so bad against the run. If Donald's going to take care of the pressures, the least Ndamukong Suh can be is a legitimate run stuffer. And this is the biggest game that Sue's ever played. He's played in 3 playoff games, played well in those 3 games, but they were all in the wild card round. The other part that I think the Rams will win, but the part that would concern me if I'm the Rams is they played back-to-back games against the Bears and Eagles, and they lost them both. And one thing that both those defenses did was they said, you know what, all that window dressing you do, we're not going to, as Bart would say, fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
You're so crazy, that's what you should say. You're
Right.
so crazy.
Right. We're not going to let that distract us from what we know you want to do. We know you're going to be in 11 personnel. We know you want to run the ball with Todd Gurley and then use our attention to Todd Gurley to open things up down the field. No matter what you do before the snap, that doesn't change what your actual goal is. So I do wonder if teams can look at the tape from those 2 games and say, okay, this is how you attack this Rams potent offense.
And to your point, right, when you talk about the smoke and mirrors, so you're talking about the ghost-like motion, the jet sweep, and all that stuff. And when you look at it, you strip all that away, it's a downhill running game. So what the Cowboys are going to do is they're going to play a defense where they don't run, where they don't react and shift. So that way they can keep their eyes where they need to have them. Because all that smoke and mirror stuff is just take your eye discipline away and get you looking at something when they're running something else somewhere else.
So, Cece, you said that for you, the most important person to keep your eye on is going to be Jared Goff. But if Dak Prescott doesn't have even close to the game he had at the end of the regular season and last week, the Cowboys don't really have a chance, do they?
Yeah, it becomes difficult for Dak Prescott because I believe they're going to force him to throw the ball. He'll have the least number of weapons available to him. Cole Beasley's been hampered by a high ankle sprain. The young tight end's been hampered, hadn't practiced all week, had a big week number 17, kind of disappeared in last week's game. Yeah. Who else are they able to get the ball to? The Rams and Wade Phillips are not going to let Amari Cooper pile up some type of 200-yard game. So who are going to be the others? Who are going to be? Michael Gallup, even though we know you complete less than 50% of your passes if you throw it to him. He needs to be able to have a big game for Dak and this offense to be able to stay balanced, to stay on the field, because in all these games, time of possession, it will be critical. You will start to see teams with the panic. I don't care if you say you're playing with house money. If Dallas is able to win this game, dominate time of possession, they'll get a comfort level playing on this field. Any team that is either trying to come from behind or their offense is able to stay on the field, there's a comfort level in being able to do that. Let's see which team can establish that. Both of these teams will be trying to do that from the beginning, Bart.
I mean, Cooper's going to be big in this game as well, but you understand that he's going against 2 guys that are physical at the line of scrimmage, want to bump and run. So I'm going to do my guy a favor. I'm going to put him in the slot. Because we understand that with the shifts in motion, we understand we're going to be able to identify for Dak if it's man-to-man coverage. So I put him in the slot so they can't get their hands on him, and then I create that space that they don't want. We both know that both of these guys are tremendous corners, but they are gamblers, and they'll fall for the banana and tailpipe. These are guys, I look at Peters, he reminds me of Delta O'Neal. He'll have 10 interceptions, and he'll have 10 bombs that he give up as well. So it's either boom or bust. Put Cooper in the slot so you can take the hands off of him, allow him to get a free release. You know he's quick inside a short area of space. That allows you to get that vertical passing game.
I like the fact of putting him in the slot because it does give him free releases. It plays to his strength as far as his overall quickness off the line. But in talking to Sanjay Lal, the wide receiver coach with Dallas, the one thing that he thought was really underrated with Amari was his deep speed. And he thought that he could make him a more efficient deep receiver. He didn't think that he was great. He thought he was good in short area space, thought he was good in the intermediate game, but he thought the most improvement was deep down the field. The one thing that the corners don't have for the Rams, they don't have the type of speed to be able to match Amari Cooper and those double moves. They are susceptible to double moves. So watch Amari Cooper. If Sanjay Lal, the wide receiver coach, gets his way, Amari Cooper will be elite in all 3 aspects, short area, intermediate, and get that deep passing game going.
And every defense, there's a discrepancy between what their numbers are defensively against the good quarterbacks and against the mediocre to bad quarterbacks. But the Rams' discrepancy is drastic. They've played 9 games this year against, I won't list them all, but against quarterbacks that we would consider below average. In those 9 games, 8 touchdowns, 15 picks, a quarterback rating allowed of 71. In the 7 games they've played against good quarterbacks, 22 touchdowns, 3 picks, a quarterback rating allowed of 120. That would be the highest quarterback rating in NFL history in a season. Where is Dak on that list? Is Dak going to fall into the latter or the former?
And the surprising numbers about that being elite, non-elite, the Rams don't play great defense at home.
Right.
They play better defense on the road. So can Dak be that force multiplier, be that elite passer in the Coliseum, which we've seen other guys have success?
Great.
Man, for that money.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.